Accept our help, the ancient power of the Asmiri. Beware the spirits that yearn for freedom. And the heart of evil that waits in the dark.
As well as the exclusive unveiling of Path of Exile Affliction, which launches on December 8th on PC and Mac, and on December 13th on console.
Introduce you to the Druid in Path of Exile 2, but one of the things that we're really focusing on now is how varied each of the classes feels to play. The monk darts around quickly from enemy to enemy, building and unleashing combos. If he doesn't stay in combat, he loses momentum and has to build it up again.
Woo!
There's not a job out there I won't take, so long as the pay's good and a crossbow can solve it.
好呀，他那个弩是全自动是怎样啦？他弩全自动
I'll take them all down, one bolt at a time.
When thinking about each new class, we really try to think about how we can make combat feel different from all the others. For the mercenary, that difference is the crossbow. A crossbow is fundamentally different than a regular bow because it fires instantly instead of needing to be drawn back.
真的是格雷夫完全是格雷夫
Immediate feedback. Clicking the fire button should make the character shoot instantly, just like in a shooter. As soon as we experience that, we realize that there are a lot of design lessons to learn from shooters, and so we fully embrace them. In Path of Exile 2, we have crossbows that work like sniper rifles, shotguns, and assault rifles.
Soul Rifle，你看右下，你们看这边，你们注意这边。好，我不能动。右下有一个弹药条，你们看右下角有一个弹药条在魔力旁边。
In fact, if this is your preferred method of gameplay, you can use it on any class, regardless of what weapon type you're using.
任何职业都可以开火。
You can change between click to move or WASD at any time.
好棒。
You can only hold 2 crossbows at a time, but Path of Exile 2 is all about interesting combinations of abilities, and this is where ammo skills come in. This is a burst shot crossbow, and right now I have armor-piercing ammo equipped, which makes it very effective when facing a group of enemies. Since it pierces right through them. But there are other ammos too. For a bigger single target, it might be a good idea to switch to Incendiary. The more projectiles hit the target, the stronger the ignite, so you'll want to get up nice, close and personal with this one. If you have a bunch of targets running at you, you might want to slow them down. In this case, you could switch to Permafrost Burst Shot. Shooting a bunch of smaller enemies at range will chill them, and potentially even freeze them in place. Once you have some frozen enemies though, you can switch back to Armor Piercing. Shooting a frozen enemy with armor-piercing burst shot will explode the ice, doing a huge amount of damage to all nearby enemies. Another feature crossbows have is attachments. This is a grenade launcher. As you can see, when I equip it, it appears on the underside of the crossbow. These attachments are just like skill gems, so you effectively get extra skill slots. You can augment these with support gems, just like regular skills. These grenades take a while to explode, so it's a good idea to pair them with some kind of crowd control, like Permafrost Burst Shot. We have other grenades too though. This attachment is a flash grenade. It does barely any damage, but it does a huge amount of stun. It can be a great opener before you run into combat.
Woo! 控制。
Now, here's another attachment, an oil grenade.
Oil grenade.
Firing one of these grenades coats the ground and nearby enemies in oil. Oil slows enemies down, so it's another useful crowd control mechanic. Now, another thing that oil can do is be set on fire. Any burning enemy or explosion will ignite the oil, causing extra burning damage. One of the problems with burst shot crossbows is that each pellet doesn't do much damage individually. This means that if enemies have armor, then it will be very effective preventing that
对啊，很
damage.
像僵尸真的游戏。
But thankfully, you can equip an additional crossbow in your second weapon set to deal with the weaknesses of your primary weapon. This is a rapid shot crossbow. Rapid shot is great for closing on enemies because you can shoot
哦，
while
弹
running.
可以走的弹幕
In， Path of Exile 2, we now have the ability to allow you to use some skills while moving.
可以走的弹幕。
Being able to create skills like this opens up a lot of new design space and allows us to really increase the pace of combat.
玩。
The armor-piercing version of Rapid Shot slowly erodes a monster's armor. Once the armor is fully broken, you can easily switch back to Burst Shot to deal much more damage.
现在觉得很屌，现在觉得打怪好累哦。
Being able to
现在觉得
run
打得
while
好累
shooting
哦。
with Rapid Shot is also great for when you want to perform a fighting retreat. Using permafrost ammo with Rapid Shot is also useful if you need to retreat. When you shoot the ground, it creates ice crystals. If you draw monsters back over these crystals, they explode, chilling the monsters. It's great if you want to set up a safe zone before pulling the next pack.
完蛋了，完蛋了
Slowing enemies
！Default
down can come
化，
in
又
handy
是
if you want to
Default
use
化
the
了。
incendiary version of Rapid Shot. Using this skill requires that you charge up a little bit before it fires, but as it continues to heat up, it will do more and more damage. It has a really large clip size, so you can just keep firing
那
and
个
firing
你们
with
知
it.
道
But the other really
POE
useful
2 有
feature is
講
that when
清
the
楚，
crossbow is heated up,
所有
it adds 的
的
extra fire damage to any
輔
grenade
助
that
宝
you
石不
launch.
带给任何傷害嗎？你們知道這件事情嗎？輔助寶石不給傷害的欸，你們知道這件事嗎？
Now I've been using explosive grenades here, but it will work equally as well with flash or oil grenades too. If you use it with oil grenades, the oil will catch fire immediately. Another crossbow type that you can find is Power Shot. This one works just like a classic sniper rifle. Use it with armor-piercing ammo and it will penetrate armor on targets. So it's a good idea to use when something's really tough. Now this skill has another interesting interaction with Armor Break. If an enemy has its armor broken, then your Power Shot hits a weak spot and does a huge amount of single target damage, with a bunch of extra stun for good measure. Now, the incendiary version of Power Shot is more like a rocket launcher. It does a big explosive blast at a
靠
distance.
北怎麼有火箭發射器啊？什麼啦？看這超讚的，這比剛那些都讚多了。哎，這個你要不要啊？
One of the really
這個你要
useful
不要？
features
這個
of
如果
this
出
version
在
is that
現在
you
出來
can
POE 要不要？
explode
這
any
個好棒
grenades
哦
that！happen to be on the ground.
大爆炸哎，好棒哦！
This combo also works really well with Incendiary Rapid Shot. I'm going to charge up the heat on my crossbow, shoot out a bunch of grenades, and then start the fireworks with a Power Shot. The ice version of Power Shot creates frost walls at a distance. This is great for crowd controlling monsters in tight passages. The wall segments have other uses too. If they get destroyed by monsters, then they will explode, doing a small amount of damage.
幹，真的是退100步哎，真的退100步哎。如果是公牛派。
Now, remember that burst shot combo with frozen enemies we did earlier? That works with ice walls too. Let's put burst shot back on. Now we can fill up this area with ice walls, then shoot them with armor-piercing burst shot for a huge amount of damage.
很多 combo， 真的很多 combo， 它的很多元素重点的 combo， 很像单机游戏才会出现的设计。 有像单机游戏才会有，可是我觉得这个也没什么不好啊。只是我真的觉得对 POE 1的玩家来说，这真的不是我们想要的东西。哦。哦，蹦蹦蹦！他是关欸。 他是超胖的关欸！我干，他叫了一只婴兒出來欸，好棒哦！幹這超魂系遊戲的，魂系遊戲才會有這種東西吧？幹他剛把自己的肚子掏出一個嬰兒，然後把臍帶剪斷欸，殺小啊！這太混了吧！ 哦，蹦蹦蹦！不是，他刚刚帮自己接，哎呦，快翻滚！好啦，你们不要再嘴了啦！平面的血缘诅咒你玩不玩？我玩啦！好不好？只是他不要叫 POE 就好了。 真的很混欸！喝水好不好？干，你为什麼不喝水啊，老哥？你為什麼不喝水？喝水一下，瘋了！你為什麼不喝水？你喝水，你水都滿的。
What is going on in this godforsaken city?
And that's the Mercenary. It feels totally different than anything we've made before, and shows you the range of what's possible in Path of Exile 2.
很混啊，当然我觉得大家也不用怎样干嘛的，就是 POE 跟 POE 2就要分開了啊，所以 POE 2始終它就是要做了一個完全不一樣的東西。那他今天做來跟更好玩的 Default 世界觀是 POE 的 Default， 你要不要玩？我玩啊！我覺得大家還好。
In the meantime, we've got a Path of Exile 1 expansion coming out next week. I'm going to hand over to Mark, also known as Neon, to show you what's in store for POE 1.
Thanks, Jonathan. Well, let's just go ahead and get straight on into it. Here's the trailer for Path of Exile Affliction.
Something moves in the mists. Something sinister. Thorn, rot, plague, and claw. The affliction spreads. It hungers for more.
电风暴 confirm， 电风暴 meta。
Tread light
看到没有
in the wildwood, which shifts and fights.
哦，你会接入新地區哎。
Accept our help, the ancient power of the Asmiri. Beware the spirits that yearn for freedom. And the heart of evil that waits in the dark.
Ah! 职業！加入新職業！
Ready yourself. I will be waiting.
哎 ，default 的新職業要錢呢？知道 default 新職業要錢嗎？新職業。
In the
誰會想到？
you will encounter
誰會想到新職業？
which beckon you to enter overgrown passageways that lead to the Viridian Wildwood. A vile affliction has covered this forest with a foreboding darkness. You'll need to uncover the forest mysteries to put a stop to the source of the affliction. As you approach the darkness, the wisps burn away its affliction. Make sure you tread carefully, because they only have a limited amount of power. But be warned, the darkness is full of cursed monsters that emerge to kill you. As you explore, you might see other types of wisps trapped inside the darkness. The Wildwood is trying to guide you towards clues about its affliction. Follow the trails of wisps by collecting them, and you may uncover many different secrets. New characters to find, shrines, boss battles, and all kinds of new encounters are lurking in the forest just waiting for you to discover them.
有点 roguelike 的味道哦，有点 roguelike 的味道，感觉战争迷雾，然后你要去開新的地區。哦，新裝。
When the sacred wisps run out of energy, they will return you back to where you came from. Any other types of wisps you have collected will return with you to Rayclast. These wisps, having been saved from the affliction, disperse into the environment and inhabit randomly chosen monsters,
怎么那么像火炬之光？
increasing their power.
他们超火炬之光吧？这怎么那么像火炬之光会出現的東西
The different types of wisps have different effects on monsters, and sometimes more than one type will inhabit a single monster, making the fight even harder and even more rewarding. If this happens to a boss, you could be in for a tough fight, but if you can overcome it, your efforts will not be in vain. Primal Wisps grant an item rarity bonus to inhabited monsters. Wild Wisps grant an item quantity bonus, and Vivid Wisps cause them to drop currency items.
Woo!
If a monster gets all three types, they'll drop more items of a higher rarity and a lot of currency.
Woo! 哦，一個 happen 的
you might
一神
find
聖，
some of the last
可
few
他沒有
Esmeri
過濾
wanderers who
器
have managed to survive in the forest since it was cursed. Each of them have different survival specializations, and they are willing to teach you if you agree to help them defeat the source of the affliction, the King in the Mists. Choose which of the Esmeri that you will complete quests for to unlock one of 3 new Ascendancy classes, which you can have in
這
addition
不
to
是
your
新
regular
職業，這是
Ascendancy
額外的
classes.
3個升華。幹，我以為是新職
Up to
業，
8
它是
points
新
for
的，
these
每個人有
classes
第二個
are
升華可以
unlocked as you complete
選
more
啊。
quests for the Esmeri you are
幹，
training
我以為是新職業，原來是第二個新升華可以選而已。可不過還是很屌，還是很屌啦，
Powerful
但還
class that
是
takes advantage of wilderness knowledge.
第二個新升
The
華
Warden
啦
of。the Magi can learn to use tinctures which coat their weapon, granting various powerful
哎
effects.
呦，想奇怪，他剛那個怎麼那麼
You
不
can
像
equip tinctures in your flask slots and toggle them on and off at will.
啊？停機是什麼？
You can only have one enabled at a time, but the effects are quite
這
conditional,
二
so you
轉，
may want to
二
have more than
轉
one equipped
每個人
and
共
swap
用二
between them
轉。
during combat.
大家
For
共用二
example,
轉。
equip the Ironwood tincture to gain the benefit of always stunning enemies on full life.
還是很屌，可是比剛剛一開始被騙的那感覺有被騙的感覺。
This one in particular adds stacks of wither to targets on full life and steals frenzy charges on hit, which makes it great as an initiator. When you are fighting rare monsters or
很
finishing
糟
off
哎，
tough
占
bosses,
你一個
you will
藥
want to
劑
swap to
格
the
很
Oak
糟
Branch
哎
tincture,，which grants Culling Strike,
占你一個藥劑格
increased
很
damage
糟
against
哎
enemies on，
而
low
且上面的效
life,
果
and
沒
has
有
a
到很
chance to
強
steal a
啊
mod。from rare enemies you kill. You can buy more tinctures from the Warden of Eves using Primal Wisps when you find her in the forest, so keep an eye out for
感
them.
感覺又是
As
所有
a
傷害可
Warden
以到
of the
點來
Magi
所有人
gain
都
more
元素值，可
ascendancy
是幹怎麼
points,
感覺這
they
期
gain
又是那
access to
個
more
啊？
skills that let them further specialize
感覺
in
這就跟召喚
tinctures.
無關了
For
啊！
example, Nature's Concoction allows you to invest in having your tinctures enhance your flasks. This ascendancy skill makes it important to think about which slots your tinctures are placed in and what flasks they are adjacent to. You will have better uptime on those flasks and they'll be stronger as a result. But there are plenty more skills to choose even if you don't want to engage with tinctures. For example, another new ability to unlock is Barkskin. It's a reservation skill that causes bark to grow all over your body, increasing armor. As you take damage, the bark falls off, increasing your evasion. Over time, the bark will grow back, removing the evasion bonus,
哦，
but
很
increasing
棒
your
哎，
armor
这个
again.
对右邊職業是很棒的東西哎，而
The
且這個
Breaker
不
of
是又是
Oaths
冠
can
軍
teach
百
you
萬
to
護
become
甲
a
喜歡的
Warlock
嗎
of the？ Mists, an
我
ascendancy class specializing in the darker arts of the Esmeri.
拜託你跟召喚有關，我求你跟召喚
One
有關。
powerful ability you can choose is Blood Hunt, which grants an active skill called Ravenous.
我求你跟召喚有關，
This
我求
skill
你跟
lets
召
you
喚
see
有
what
關。
type a monster is under its life bar, whether it is a demon, beast, undead, construct, or humanoid. Consuming a corpse with this skill gives a buff to damage against that type of monster and reduces damage taken by it. You can only have one type active at a time, so it's a good idea to choose wisely for the area
我觉得
that you
我
are
觉得
in.
很无聊。
Some bosses, like the Maven, are eldritch in nature and don't conform to the regular corpses that you have access to. But don't worry. The Breaker of Oaths has a shop where you can trade wild wisps for
可以把
corpses
尸
that
体
you
丢在
can
地
place
上
on the
哦。
ground wherever you are.
好肥，可以把尸体丢在地上哦，笑死。
Buy an Eldritch Corpse and you will be able to get the bonus while fighting Eldritch entities like the Maven. You may notice that most of the corpses he sells are not monsters you normally encounter.
妖魂，妖魂。
You might want to try turning some of these corpses into specters, to take advantage of some of the unique abilities that these monsters have. The Warlock of the Mists gets access to many other abilities. For example, there is a trio of curses that you can pick from. One of these curses targets your minions, giving them life degen and making them explode for massive damage when they are near death. One of them prevents enemies from dealing damage for the latter portion of its duration, which is quite powerful against bosses. This curse creates the interesting build decision of whether or not you should increase curse duration or reduce it. The final curse is a mark that causes enemy phantasms to be spawned when you hit the marked enemy. These phantasms aren't on your side, so they work well with on-hit and on-kill trigger effects, for example.
哦，幽影是你自己，你多出
The Primal Huntress can teach you to become a Wildwood Primalist. Unlike the other new ascendancies, the Primal Huntress lets you customize your tree.
啊，都是空的，放宝石哦。
You do this with charms that you can buy from the Primal Huntress for Vivid Wisps.
哦
Charms have randomly generated mods, which give stats from regular ascendancy
每
classes,
3秒获得一个充能药
allowing you
剂
to，create your own hybrid
这个应该
ascendancy
最强，
class.
这个应该是最强的。
Charms are
感觉
magic
这个
items that
感
are
觉这个
aligned
是
with
最
different
强的。
attributes. So, for example, this Ursine charm is strength aligned and has gotten the melee
冠
hits have a
军
chance to
类型，
fortify
然后移动速
stat
度
from the
慢的，
champion, and the ability to stop your movement speed going below base from the Juggernaut.
感觉这个是最强的。
This interline Corvine charm lets you get the
哦，
stat
有
that
爆
makes your
炸耶
concentrated ground effects
不过只有
linear from
3%，
the
几率，
Inquisitor,
3%几率给鬼哦。
and
不
the
过应该
effect
可
that
以
makes
塞
cursed
3-4
enemies
顆吧，
explode from the
可以
occultist.
塞3-4顆就会變
Some of the combination of mods that you might find for sale on charms can be
死亡
extremely
凋零
powerful.
連
So
鎖、机
keep
动
a
連锁、
lookout
瑞
for
眼
the Primal Huntress's
耐
shop,
力9 8
even if you're
加
not
1
playing as a Primalist. As a Primalist, you also get access to a few other interesting abilities.
你的战
Use
吼可以打開
Warcry
箱
next
子
to。corpses and they have a chance to drop an extra item. It opens nearby chests too. The Primalist also gets access to a small extra backpack, just in case you
一张
find
能刷
yourself
2
needing
次
to cart more items to town during your map runs.
腾讯小背包。
If you are unhappy with the class you picked, or you just happen to find a really great item for another one of the classes, you are able to change which class you are using next time you find one of the Azmiri Wanderers. Just remember that you will have to do their quests in order to gain the ascendancy points for that class. These quests will lead you towards the ultimate goal of the Azmiri, finding the King in the Mists, defeating him, and cleansing the forest of its affliction once and for all. There are new uniques to find, rewards to claim, and new ascendancy classes to master in the Affliction League. Now that we've covered what's in the league, let's talk about some of the changes you can expect to the core game in 3.23. For a start, Ultimatum is finally going core. When talking to players at ExileCon, it was the #1 feature that people requested. When playing through endgame maps, you may sometimes encounter the Trial Master, who offers you a choice to undertake a Deadly Val trial in exchange for great rewards. If you defeat the trial, he offers to go double or nothing with you. Do you take the risk and go for an even better reward? Or do you take the winnings you have already earned off the table and go home? We've done a full rebalance of Ultimatum and have added many new mods and rewards, including both new and reworked uniques.
看左邊那個是啥
The
小，
base
太多
number
東
of
西了
rounds
吧？
for an Ultimatum
右
trial
邊
is
被
now
擊中的
always
時候
10,
獲得
with a
100 移
chance to spawn
動
the。Trial Master boss fight on the 10th round,
沒怎麼
if you
用
are able to make it that far. As part of 3.23, we have also removed Metamorph from the game. All the Catalyst rewards from Metamorph have now been moved to be rewards for Ultimatum. We have also added a new Val-themed Catalyst that works on corrupted items.
電魔被移除了。
As is normal for most content that gets added to endgame,
我剛沒看
we've
到啊，電魔被移
introduced
除
new
了。
Ultimatum passive skills to the Atlas tree.
怎么被移除了？
One great example is the Keystone Grueling Gauntlet. It makes ultimatums last 3 extra rounds, but you cannot choose the modifiers, and it prevents the final Trail Master boss fight from spawning. The level of challenge becomes extreme during the last 3 rounds, and not being able to choose the modifiers makes it even harder. But the rewards are insane, and for those with very high-end characters, it might be a bet worth making. There are lots of other Atlas passive skills you can pick from for Ultimatum, so choose wisely.
Now, it's time to talk about one of the largest metagame changes we've ever made. There were 3 systems in Path of Exile that were all trying to subtly modify the behavior of skills. These were alternate quality gems, Labyrinth Helmet enchants, and unique threshold jewels. We've combined all of these together to create a new system called Transfigured Gems that allows us to fully achieve the goal of these 3 systems and then some.
Transfigured Gems are alternative versions of existing skill gems that have different functionality and balance from their regular versions. We have added a huge number of these with interesting variations that drastically change how existing skills play. For example, Frostbomb of Instability. It changes it from a cooldown skill that you can cast occasionally for a large explosion into a skill that you can cast continuously but deals less damage and doesn't apply cold exposure. It changes the role of Frostbomb from a utility skill into a main damaging skill. Another example is Detonate Dead of Scavenger. You can't use it on corpses that were created by Desecrate or Unearth, but in exchange it does a whole lot more damage. You won't be able to use it as your main reliable source of damage, but it's a great skill to use as a 4-link utility to get some extreme burst damage.
25% 爆率
Raise zombie of
28%
falling. Instead of raising a zombie from a corpse, you summon them from mid-air. They fall to their death, dealing AoE damage when they land. While this sounds like a physical damage version of Firestorm, you should consider that it scales with minion damage and also triggers on-death minion effects. Blight of Contagion. This version of Blight is now spread by Contagion, so you can use it as part of your Essence Drain build. We have a huge number of these. Transfigure Firestorm into Firestorm with Meteors, Transfigure Blade Trap into Blade Trap of Greatswords, Transfigure Barrage into Barrage of Volley Fire, and so on. There is a lot to experiment with, and we look forward to seeing what builds you can come up with. But how do you get Transfigured Gems? The Divine Font at the end of the Eternal Labyrinth has been changed to a gem crafting device that can modify your skill and support gems in a lot of new ways. One of the options you can now choose is to turn a skill gem into one of 3 Transfigured Gems. But that isn't all the Divine Font can do. It has a lot of other gem crafting options you can use. For example, you can add quality to gems, add experience to gems, sacrifice a gem for 1 or more treasure keys to open Azaros chests, and you can even exchange support gems for exceptional support gems like Empower or Enlighten. These are just some of the options you'll find the Divine Font is now capable
直接拿
of.
启蒙赋予
In order to replace the rewards and heist that previously gave alternate quality gems, we have done a rebalance of the rewards of heist as well. Experimented base types have been rebalanced. New replica uniques have been added and old
又有
ones
新的赝
changed,
品
and we have increased the amount of
激情
currency
之章
from
赝
display
品
cases as well. On top of this,
龙
we have
卷
gone through
射
and buffed the
击
quality stats on most
加
damage
品质
dealing
属
skills.
性
In most cases, they will be significantly more powerful
加
than
2
before, and also
龙
more
岩
interesting.
奔腾连锁加2
Overall, this is
额
one
外
of the
一头
largest
遮
metagame
尾
shifts that we've ever done. There are so many crazy new skill combinations to plan around, so we expect to see some really interesting new builds. Next up, I'd like to hand back over to Chris to talk about the new supporter packs.
At this point, we'd usually talk about the League supporter packs. We're doing things a bit differently this year. Rather than releasing League supporter packs today and then our annual core packs 2 weeks later, we've combined it all together into a strong set of core supporter packs that will be released alongside Path of Exile Affliction next week. The series contains 5 packs, each with its full value of points and a collection of exclusive cosmetic microtransactions.
玉版飞行
The higher packs contain physical merchandise. We'll unveil the full details of each of the packs at release next week, but in the meantime, here's a sneak peek of some of their exclusive cosmetic microtransactions. These packs will be available for purchase when Path of Exile Affliction launches on the 8th of December. Thank you so much for your ongoing support. We're just about to start the Q&A with Ziggy D. Afterwards, we'll post Path of
从天
Exile
而降的
Affliction's
掌
full
法
patch notes. With the release at the end of next week, our community team will be posting crucial information you'll need for Affliction's release. Keep an eye on the news. On release weekend, we expect to launch the new mystery box and this season's Kyrix Vault Pass. Thanks for joining us today and checking out our latest developments. We're looking forward to exploring the Viridian Wildwood with you next week. We'll begin the Q&A shortly, so please get your questions ready.
FPS 好像。
鞋子我们用骑士走肉，维持视野供应来在我站的时候供应3缝线。